Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. On this week's Ear Biscuit, where we gather around the round table of dim lighting, we talk to Julian Smith.
Talked to him about what it was like growing up as a homeschooler who was also already a video professional by the age of 15.
How he got into YouTube. And we answered the $10 million question that's on all of your minds. Julian Smith, where have you been? Why are you not making comedy videos on YouTube anymore?
Well, one of the things he's been doing that we talked with him a little bit about is he's been having a baby, or at least a woman that he impregnated had a baby, his wife.
He became a father, just a number of weeks ago. So that's the big news. That's the first thing.
And, being fathers, I always enjoy talking to somebody who is, has just become a father. They're going through this milestone. Don't like to get too, advice laden. I don't want to be like, okay, well, here's what you got in store and that kind of thing. If they have questions, we'll answer them kind of thing. But, it reminded me that Julian's going through this milestone of becoming a father. I feel like I'm going through a very significant milestone as a father, and that is
really
that my 9-year-old, Locke, is now texting me.
You gave him a cell phone?
Did not give him a cell phone. Now, a lot of people, because I think that would be controversial, and I don't think he should have a cell phone, but maybe this kind of slipped the cracks, because what happened is he has an iPod Touch. Well, you know what he has? He has an iPhone 3G that is just an iPod now.
It's
because
deactivated.
It doesn't have a SIM card in it. So it's essentially an iPod Touch. Mm-hmm. He can play games on it and that kind of thing. Well,
my kids also have those.
Right, but we go back home
to old phones that I don't want anymore.
We go back home to North Carolina for our friend Mike's wedding over the weekend, and my wife and children stay for a few extra days to kind of hang out with family and that kind of thing. Well, he finds out from his cousin Isaiah that there is this app that you can put on your phone, and using a Google account, you can essentially have an iPod Touch that functions as a phone. If you have a Wi-Fi signal, you can text. Basically iMessage kind of thing, but he can also call.
So, he can call you on a telephone too.
But he can only call like the few people that are in the,
So but he's texting you mostly. What are these texts?
Well, the first text I get from him yesterday is, "It's me, Locke."
Okay, that's a good start.
Okay, so I know who that is. And then he says, "I got this for you." And there's a link, and you click on the link, and it is a picture of a king-size Mr. Goodbar.
You like those?
I do like them.
Well, that's good. He's thinking about you. I think this could be an added dimension to your relationship. But the problem is he can also communicate with older females. That's what you got to be watching out for. You got to limit who he's going to talk to.
Well, of course I'm going to do. What are you talking about, older females?
Well, because they have cellular telephones.
Well, he doesn't have their numbers.
They like to text.
But
you don't know if he has their numbers. You didn't even know he could communicate via text until you got one.
Well, that's true. But then I call him on this number, and the first thing he says is, he's like, "Hey, Dad." I'm like,
and when I say older females, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to come clean. I'm talking about my daughter here. I don't want your son texting my daughter.
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen. They're just friends. They're just good friends.
Okay, 1 year apart.
So I get him on the phone after this because I can call this number that I've been texted from, and I can have a conversation with him. Uh-huh. So the first thing he says is, he's like, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "Hey, Locke." He's like, "Hey, I got you a king-size Mr. Goodbar." I'm like, "Yeah, I got the text." So, that was important to him.
Kind of redundant.
And I'm thinking, well, okay, how's that thing going to do on the plane? I don't know. Keep it out of the heat. I don't want a melty Mr. Goodbar. But then this morning at 8:55 a.m., I get another text. Taylor Swift just came out with single Sweeter Than Fiction. This is a 9-year-old.
So he's giving you entertainment news.
Yeah, so now he's always on top of things. But, we listen to music as a family. We are Taylor Swift fans. The boys love to sing her music and that kind of thing. So we get the Taylor Swift text. But then right after that, he follows it up with a text that says, "And please buy it. Also, buy Daft Punk's new album."
It's a good album.
So, all of a sudden, I'm getting Daft Punk recommendations.
Okay.
How should I feel about this?
It's a good album. I own it. And so I agree with Locke. You should buy the album. I mean, it's a very trendy thing to do, the helmets and everything. That's very cool music. It'll make you cooler.
How do you
need
feel
that.
about my 9-year-old texting me about Mr. Goodbars? That's one thing, but then texting me about new albums.
That's pretty cool. I think it's proper usage of the appliance.
Well, so are you going to get this app for your kids so they can text you?
Never. No, I got to keep more control over them. But buy that Daft Punk album. Lincoln, who's a year younger than Locke, he listens to me play that one, and it has Up All Night to Get Lucky.
Right.
Which is not necessarily a song that is appropriate
talking about gambling, though.
For my 8-year-old son to hear until I hear him singing it, and I realize that he thinks the lyrics are Mexican puppy. Mexican puppy.
Up all
Mexican.
night to up all.
He didn't even hear the Up All Night part because it's when the robot starts singing, it just sounds like Mexican puppy.
Like a chihuahua?
I'm like,
He's
this is okay.
So he's just thinking about a chihuahua.
It's okay.
That's
so,
harmless.
So as long as...
Well, I'll tell Locke that's what it says. Mexican puppy.
Okay, well then I'll let my kids text with him then.
Okay.
And then we'll share all of this with Julian, who is a new father. All right, let's get to our conversation with Julian Smith. He is a longtime friend of ours, so we had a great conversation. We got into lots of things related to and preceding to his YouTube channel, which if you want to check it out, if you don't know, Julian Smith 87.
He is known for his incredibly cinematic and incredibly funny comedy sketches, and you've probably seen him even if you don't know that you have, because he's got some videos out there with, 20 million views?
Yeah, Malk, he put his cat in an oven, and waffles, which, hey, we're partial to that one because we may be in that one.
May or may not be in that one.
Here it is, our conversation with Julian Smith. Okay, so Julian, you are fresh off of having a baby. Sarah had a baby.
Yeah, I didn't have the baby myself, but
Right.
yes.
We're talking 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks. This is one of the first things I've done.
You don't look sleep deprived.
This baby is a freak of nature. It sleeps better than I can half the time.
So you're still calling it? You don't know if it's a male or a female.
It's a surprise.
We're waiting till week 4.
You've heard of people, parents waiting to find out what the gender is until it comes into the world. We're waiting until its 18th birthday. We're going to shave its head every week.
Okay, good. Never look in the diaper.
Well, that's not how you tell the sex of a child, by the length of the hair. I'm just newsflashing.
It is an indicator, though, culturally.
It's not.
Right.
It's not.
No, it's not. Sorry. You have to look at their private parts.
No, you haven't done that yet, have you?
I don't even know what private parts are. What is this?
Okay, all right.
What's your child's name?
Nora. Eleonora. We call her Nora.
Eleonora, middle name.
Eleonora, not Eleanor. Everybody's calling her Eleanor.
I said Eleonora.
Yeah, you said it right. I'm just correcting all the people that are in their cars right now calling her, Eleanor.
Eleonora.
Lynn
Smith.
But
she goes by Nora.
Yep.
Right now she just goes by
Nora.
Baby. Yeah.
With no H.
With no H.
N-O-R-A.
N-O-R-A.
Now, was this an eventful delivery? Anything exciting happen? Did you faint?
Sarah's...
everybody's healthy now. Let's have a spoiler.
You want a spoiler?
Yeah, I need to know that Sarah's okay and the baby's okay.
Sarah's good, baby's good.
I assume I would have heard that before now.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, I came here because I knew it meant a lot to you, but really, at home, things are bad.
Okay, now I can breathe easy. You can just tell me the delivery process. How does that work?
Well, I don't know how much you want to know, but...
all of it.
But Sarah's water actually broke, which is crazy because that only happens like 8% of the time. When your water breaks at home, you guys probably know that because you have children.
Right. It happens 100% of the time in the movies.
In the movies, it happens all the time because it's like the most exciting thing that could possibly happen. But, so...
Was this ahead of the due date or what?
It was after the due date, like 3 days and 3 or 4 days. Yeah. And so her water broke at home and we... hauled it to the hospital. And
what were you doing?
Sleeping.
She was asleep.
We were asleep. It was like 1 a.m. when her water broke. It was like 1:45 in the morning.
And she was like, Julian, you've peed on the bed again.
Yep.
And you were like,
Exactly.
It wasn't me this time. I think we need to get you. But was it panic? Was it?
It kind of was. I was like dead asleep and I wake up to, honey, I think my water just broke. And like within 13 minutes, we were out the door. I remember looking at that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So it was crazy.
And then traffic could be an issue in this town. So,
but not
that early in the morning.
So that's a good thing.
I got there and we moved from the Valley to Venice mid-pregnancy, and we decided to stay at the hospital that we had in Tarzana because we liked our doctor so much. So we were, it was a long drive, but I got there in 20 minutes.
That was the best possible, timing.
Yeah.
Was to go in the middle of the night because that could be like an hour and a half drive.
You guys, I was going so fast.
On the 405.
Yes, that is the fastest I think anybody's going on the 405.
Now, was she like screaming? I mean, how dramatic was this?
She wasn't screaming, but it was definitely, it was intense. Neither of us really knew what to expect. We haven't, I've never had a kid. Never been through that process. So it was just get to the hospital as fast as possible. Especially because her water had broken. If it was like,
if
it was just labor, we would have had like 5 hours to chill at the house or whatever.
Yeah.
And, so we just knew we had to get there.
And
but the contractions were happening on the 405 and you're like pedal to the metal.
Yep.
I am not.
There was
I'm
a
not
moment
going to be the one.
I'm kind of a crazy driver. I'm a safe driver. I've never been in an accident that's my fault.
Okay.
And Sarah is always like, she's always telling me that I need to chill out when I'm on the road because I'm very aggressive, on the road. And this was the one. She looked at me. It was like this moment. It was like that moment in the movie where she looks at me and she goes, "Go fast," and I was like, "I can do that."
Finally,
and
we should have babies more often.
I went fast. And I got there. I went from Venice to Tarzana in 20 minutes.
That is close to a record, if not a record.
That has to be a record.
Seeing your wife in that much pain, I mean, you know that, okay, in principle, that's going to be part of it. You know that it's natural, not necessarily anything wrong is happening, but it still has to be a bit of anguish to see her go through so much pain.
If you want to know what someone would sound like as an animal, just get them pregnant. It's that simple.
It really brings that out in you.
So what animal is Sarah?
A triceratops.
Oh. And if you want to know what a triceratops
Looks
sounds like.
You said triceratops.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was
that was probably subliminal. That was probably subliminal. No, I'm not into puns, Rhett. I'm not into puns.
Right.
I don't do puns.
Yeah, but it was pretty good. It was a good pun.
I'm a very serious person, Rhett.
I know.
I demand that you take me seriously right now.
Okay.
You feel different?
Yeah. It's like, they say that you can't. My dad called me the week before Nora came here, and he said, he's like, the kind of love that you feel for this human being, you don't even have a slot for yet, and it is going to blindside you. And that's like exactly how it is. It's like a totally different, like, I didn't even know that this like sensation could exist. It's really strange for me. Anyways, it's probably different for everybody, but for me, it was just.
I don't love my kids, so I mean, I can't.
Well, that blank stare you were giving me, it looked like you were very removed.
And you're only 3 weeks into this thing. I think there's something that I've observed. A lot of people observe.
It's still very new to me.
The mom, there is this instant connection because of the previous 9 months. For the dad,
it's a little different.
And I think I've heard that it's common for the dad to feel even a sense of guilt for not feeling an instant connection.
Yeah, well, it's definitely
not
different.
Knowing what it is.
It's definitely different for me than it is for Sarah. I can tell that, and I've had friends that have had kids, and they've said I had to sit down with my wife today, and she thinks that I don't like love this kid because it's not the same for me as it is for her, and she has she's been totally understanding, like she doesn't she totally gets it, and it is different, but it still is like it hit me immediately. It was like this rush of emotion that I didn't when I was holding her for the first time. Sorry, I started like talking about I had no frame of reference for what I was talking about. When I held Nora for the first time, I was like rushed with these emotions, and I still every day though, it's like I feel like I'm getting to know this person, and you can only get to know someone so much when they don't even speak English.
Well, yeah, you'll start learning a lot when she begins speaking.
Trying to order at Taco Bell or something.
So was that bad? Should I have not said that? In the which part?
No, you were talking about the intercom, the difficulties with the intercom.
Yeah, is that technologist?
Yeah, but it's okay here. We allow
it's a safe
that
zone.
Here.
All right, good.
Was there Was it traumatic at the point of delivery? Where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, up to that point, I thought like I don't want to. When the baby's head starts coming up, that's when I look away, and that was like the moment where I shocked myself. I was like, I can't stop watching this. This is amazing. Like I wasn't like weak at the knees or anything. I thought I was going to be, but I wasn't.
You're a father now. You've joined the club.
Yeah.
We can compare notes.
Welcome.
On that.
Thanks.
We'll tell you about all the failures that we've had so far, and maybe you can learn something and improve.
I have no desire to learn.
But let's go. Well, that's smart of you.
It's a good mentality I found.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you were born at some point.
I think so. I'm still waiting to find out. I'm all about surprises.
And where was that? Where are you from?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Now, you've got a slew of siblings.
Mm-hmm. I'm the second oldest of 6.
Second oldest. You got an older brother, sister?
Older sister.
Okay.
And she has 6 kids. Or she's pregnant with her 6th right now. Crazy.
Wow.
I got a lot of work to do.
The pressure is
Just
on.
kidding. I'm not doing that.
You don't aspire to that.
Okay, you got an older sister, and then, let's see, so that leaves 4 younger than you. Did I just do that right?
I think so. Yeah.
6 of you total.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? 6 kids in this day and age? That's a lot of kids. What's the dynamic here growing up? What's your dad do? What's your mom do?
So when I was really young, my dad was he was an executive at a record label. He worked. He had a pretty long music career in Nashville, doing like country and Christian music. That's pretty much the only market there. I think it may be growing a little bit now, but back in the 80s and 90s, that's pretty much all there was. So he was pretty influential.
Yep.
I just added a syllable there.
It's even better than influential.
That's my Southern coming out, adding syllables now. He had a pretty long career in music, and my mom is
as
an executive, like doing A&R, finding bands, signing them, does
he have like a claim to fame?
My dad is the most modest person. I get the feeling that I don't really know everything he's done, but like every 3 years I hear, like 2 years ago, I found out that he is responsible for Garth Brooks cutting The Dance.
What?
And I was like, what? Like, how did I not know about this? Apparently, like Garth Brooks came into my dad's office, like as a nobody, and was like playing cold playing songs for like record labels.
Oh wow!
A no name guy, maybe he wasn't no name. Maybe it was before The Dance. So I'm not super familiar with Garth Brooks or what his,
Yeah, that was on his first, his breakout album. And let me pause you for a second.
No.
Rhett, can you sing some of The Dance? Do you remember it?
Looking back on the memories of the dance we shared.
He loved this album.
Beneath
Oh,
the
really?
stars above.
It sounds like it.
For a moment, I lost the key. All the world was right.
I'm getting really uncomfortable.
How could I have known
Just take it in.
that you'd ever say goodbye? And now,
I don't know how long he's going to
I just can't stop looking at him.
Close your eyes.
He looks like it hurts.
what is that? How does the chorus go?
Glad I didn't know the way it all would end.
The way it all would go. I can only imagine Garth Brooks sitting in your dad's office.
I remember dancing.
I don't even know the song. That's how good of a son I am. I never even listened to it.
I remember dancing to that song in the Ruatan building. My, let's see, 9th grade. Melissa, somebody was in 10th grade and she wanted to dance with me after I broke up with Tabitha. And that was the dance that we danced to.
Wow.
That was
a good song to dance to.
That was the song that I think established Garth Brooks on the scene.
Yeah, I knew that much about the song.
Your dad can take credit for that.
Apparently my dad was pushing for Garth Brooks to do that song, and nobody wanted to let him do it. They were like, didn't believe in the song. They didn't think it sounded right. And my dad was like pushing from the beginning to like let him do it. And my dad was like one of the key people that ended up like pushing I don't know which expression I should use here, but he was the one that ended up like.
Well, only one guy can do a song.
Yeah.
So once that song's paired with somebody, in country music, other people can do it later. But I mean, in modern country music, it doesn't happen that often. A song goes with a guy, and that's his. That's either his ticket. It either works or it doesn't.
Right.
Is my understanding of
Yeah.
it. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Very
so I'm
big.
always finding stuff out about my dad. I'm like gonna find out one day that He was actually like a secret agent, and I never really knew his real name.
So he was dabbling in country music and Christian music. He was doing the Toby Keith and the Toby Mac type situation.
Yeah, actually, Toby Mac too. He did some stuff with DC Talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were born in 87.
87.
Because that's your username on YouTube.
Yeah, let's not talk about that username and how I got stuck with it.
But that's point of reference. Okay, so I guess this is around that same time. See, he was working in that business before you were born, and then even through that.
Yeah.
What about your mom?
My mom is a published author and playwright, and she, my earliest memories of her I have a lot of memories of her directing dinner theaters and things like that. So she, my parents definitely both influenced me a lot. I grew up in a really creative house. Pretty much all of us play an instrument and do something with the right part of our brains.
So they told you to get guitar lessons? Is that what happened?
I've actually never had a guitar lesson. My dad taught me some basics as a kid, but I was never really good at a classroom setting. It's that's a major reason that I was homeschooled for the large part of my life.
Were all your siblings homeschooled?
Yeah. After I was in elementary school until third grade, and then my parents pulled me and the rest of my siblings. One of the big reasons was because my kindergarten teacher thought I was autistic. I don't know. Have I ever told you guys about this?
No.
I don't think so.
Based on, I guess at the time they were really big on analyzing drawings that the kids were doing, and based on my drawings, my the facial features of the people I would draw were out of place. They would have noses for ears and ears for eyes and things like that. It was really wacky drawings, and they had a few meetings with my parents. And they were we're really worried about Julian, and my parents were he's just weird. He's not autistic. He's just weird.
He thinks ear noses are funny.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
That's what he thinks you look like.
Actually,
he could have made it personal.
I'm not being totally fair. I was a little bit. I don't think I was a problem child, but I definitely pushed my teachers a little bit. I would find out that they were having a fire drill. Do you guys remember fire drills?
Oh yeah.
So I'd find out that there was going to be a fire drill happening, and I would tie my shoelaces to the chair, so that when the bell went off, I'd just be sitting in my chair, and the teachers would be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, I can't get up. And they'd have to help me untie my double knotted laces from the chair. And I'd be the last one out of the classroom. So I think there was some of that too. I think they were kind of the things that he thinks of are not good.
And now, so in third grade, they took you out.
Yeah.
And they said, we'll do the homeschool thing.
Yeah.
Your sister, they took her out, your older sister at the same time?
They took her out. And then my younger brother, who, he wasn't even in school at the time. So all the rest of my siblings were, and still are. Some of them are still homeschooled. So actually, only one of them is still in school. Yeah.
So you had this, two creative parents.
Mm-hmm.
You got 6 kids being homeschooled. So did you guys do family productions? Is it one of those situations where they were let's sing together, let's do this play together,
and while all wearing jean jumpers?
We tried to do some of that, but it didn't really work out. I guess I don't know. Some things would work. My mom would put us in some of her dinner theater things, doing live drama and that. We did that setting worked, but I remember she also tried to get us to do a family band at one point, and that just went terribly. I didn't even think there was anything south of Nashville until I realized you could go further down. That did not work.
You mean on tour?
No, I just mean it was so bad that I realized
I
word.
The Smith family band.
Really, I'm now I am doing the puns. Look at me.
I mean, I wanted to hear that you guys put out an album, because when I hear about a really creative family with all these children, I just, it's daddy sang bass, mama sang treble.
I think that's what my mom was hoping for
tenor,
too.
Not treble. You don't sing treble.
Mama sang the tweeter. Okay, but that didn't happen.
Didn't happen, no.
So, did you fit the stereotypical homeschool upbringing? And I will say, this, we homeschool our kids, and Rhett's wife Jessie homeschools their kids. So that was a big factor in us making a decision. Was the stigma and the stereotype. You talk about the jean jumpers, and the ultra strict and sheltered. I guess is the word I'm looking for. What was your experience growing up homeschooled? Was it sheltered type of a thing?
I wouldn't say it was sheltered. It was actually it was really great for me because I knew from a very early age what I wanted to. I knew I wanted to be in either music or film, like very early. And so I was in high school. I mean, now I'm skipping a little bit, but in high school, my friends and I would shoot little like home videos on the weekends just for fun. And then that eventually turned into me, freelancing editing for other people. And so I was like, I was like 15, 16, and I was doing my school at night so that I could do these like day jobs for like, I was like getting clients and stuff like that. So, so homeschooling was great for me for that reason.
So you did have friends.
Yeah.
Your friends weren't just your family members.
Oh, you want to talk about friends?
You had friends.
See, I'm still trying to figure out what these are. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that the secret to home, I think that a lot of parents want to, they think like, okay, so we're going to homeschool our kids. We got to make sure that they're social. So we got to get all these homeschoolers together to talk. And I think that's that's okay, but that can't be their only social interaction. Because, like, I don't know how it is today, but when I was in elementary school, I would go to these homeschool get-togethers. Like, I remember one very vividly that was at a roller skating rink every week, and it was so terrible. It was like I was like 7. No. Yeah, no, I was probably like 8 or 9. Don't even understand what it means to be like good or bad at a social setting. And I'm like, this is awkward.
They didn't have a cookie cake? That usually makes up for everything.
I don't remember anything like that. I just remember like leaving every conversation with every kid feeling very dissatisfied and confused. And
dissatisfied and confused.
Yeah.
Julian, the 8-year-old.
Yeah, I was just like, it just didn't, it seemed very like weird. And it was weird. And so I didn't like going to those things. And, there was a homeschool prom and I was like, I'm definitely not going to that.
You don't want to be caught dead at that thing.
Yeah, so I just think that those things aren't quite the answer. I think you got to find, you got to get your kids involved in something else. And
how did you find real friends at like a 9-year-old?
That's a good
age.
Question. I was really involved with my church at the time, so I had a lot of friends involved. I had a lot of friends through my church, but I also was like, I don't know, I was just most of my friends were through like I was like a social virus. I would just like find somebody that I liked, and then I would just like force my way into their life. In hindsight, it was kind of weird. Like I would just like meet all their friends, and so I actually I didn't go to my own prom, but I went to like 5 of my friends' proms, and like so I had all these different like groups of friends, and none of them really knew each other. But I would I don't know. I got around.
You're a prom crasher.
I was like a friend prostitute.
Now, your dad, at some point, didn't he switch to be like a pastor of your church too, right?
He left the music industry when I was around 11 or 12, and both of my parents are very entrepreneurial, and he, tried. He started a few different ventures on his own, and he's still got a few of those going, and then somewhere along the way,
like what, an inventor?
No, like music stuff, like doing music on his own. I think he just got tired of being a part of like the big label industry, and it was so. I don't know. I mean, everybody knows what I mean when I say that. He just wanted to be like a lone ranger, like doing his thing, and so he's kind of done that over the years, and he's done the guy can do everything. So he's done a plethora of things over the decades.
Including pastor a church.
Yeah, and he started pastoring a church about, gosh, I don't even know how long it's been, 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. No, 8 years ago, probably. It was around 2004 or something like that. Yeah, so about 10 years.
Okay, so I mean, you were kind of transitioning into adulthood.
Yeah, and I actually, in the early stages of that, I was around 17 or 18, and I had found this job. I was out of high school, and my parents were like, okay, you're either going to go to college or you're going to find a way to make money doing this video stuff that you're so passionate about. And so
it sounds like you had been doing for a couple of years.
Yeah, but
you said you were 15 or 16 and you had clients.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing more than the average like 15 or 16-year-old was like work-wise, but I wasn't like going and looking for apartments, so they were like, you either got to turn this into something stable or you're going to go to school and, learn how to make it stable. So when I graduated high school, I went on monster.com, which I don't even know if that's still around anymore.
I think it is.
Is it? And I started looking for jobs in the area. And one thing that came up was there's this mega church in Nashville called, at the time it was called Bellevue Community Church, and they were looking for a full-time video guy, and I was like, I'm going to try out for that.
Did the Monster listing say mega church? Did they describe themselves that way?
Well, I guess I just say that because it's like when you say a church video guy,
mega church.
It's like what when you usually say church, people picture like pews and like 50 people, and it's like, so when you say video guy at a place like that, it's like, what are you possibly making? You know,
well, and maybe as a point of clarification for people who may not, being in the South and even being in Nashville, I mean, we have what we would call mega churches where we come from. Being in the Bible Belt, you've got these massive First of all, the majority of people go to church, and then you've got these massive churches with thousands of people. And then in Nashville, I know we don't see much of that even out here in California.
Right,
but
it's very different.
It's a very big part of the culture there in Nashville. So it's just like, that's what, those of you listening, that's what a mega church is. It's not like a church that's about to take over the world. It's just a very large church with thousands of people.
It's basically a giant business that is like like
with a coffee shop.
Yeah, they have a coffee shop. They have like a they have a creative team. They have an audio guy. They have like it's like a mini production house. We had this church that I went on to work for. They had their old like creative offices. It was disconnected from the church, and it was like we worked on a creative staff there, and it was that was like where I learned the bulk of what I've learned today. That's just I got to.
So you're talking about the job. You took the job.
Yeah, I took the job.
What was the position?
A video director.
Well, tell us how we got to YouTube. Let me rephrase that. I know how I got to YouTube. How you got to YouTube.
How I got to YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I just when YouTube came out and things were starting to kind of go viral on there, I was like, well, heck, I've got hundreds of these videos I've shot with my friends. I could put a couple up there and see what happened. And so I started putting a couple of my favorites up there, and it was like really unofficial. It wasn't even like, I wasn't even trying anything. It was just like, I'll put them on YouTube so I can send them to my friends easier and stuff like that. And then I went.
Any videos that are still up that we would know?
I think there's a couple. There's one called It's an awkward. I had a series of videos that I did called Awkward Moments, and one of them called Kevin's Bro is still up. I think it's the first video I uploaded.
Okay.
I had uploaded several before that. They're now unlisted, but that one is like before I was actually trying anything legitimately. That was just like me and friends goofing off and not trying anything.
Okay.
So that's still on there, I think. But I'm trying to remember. I went through a pretty serious breakup. I was with this girl for like 3 years, and this was in Nashville, and I wanted to get out of Nashville.
Let me guess. The mega church pastor's daughter.
No. I wasn't that Southern.
Okay.
No, but and I decided to go move to Buffalo, New York, with my best friend lived at the time.
Well, that's quite a breakup. Okay, you're with this girl.
Well, it was a pretty serious relationship. We were like, in the South.
Were you engaged?
No, but pretty close to it. We were pretty close to it. I mean, in the South, you guys know how it is. It's like you're 18, you start thinking about marriage. So it was that kind of thing.
So it was a high school, homeschool, high school sweetheart type thing.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't homeschooled.
She was in a real school?
She was in a real school. Her prom was one of the ones I actually went to. So that's very notable. But anyways, we broke up, and I was like, well, I kind of want to just get out of this. I had been kind of wanting to look for something. This was right when the partner program had been introduced, and I'd kind of heard about it on YouTube, and I was like, well, maybe I could try to do some like weekly videos and see what happens, And so we broke up, and I moved to Buffalo with to live with my best friend who was up there, and I shot this series called.
Now I want to know your frame of mind now. So forgive me for digging on this.
No, go for it.
Was this like heartbroken situation?
Yeah,
I'm so heartbroken I have to leave the state.
Yeah, this was like, I don't want to see her. I dumped her. But it was really hard. Like I still really cared about her, but like I knew it wasn't going to work because we were just too different. And like I knew that if we got married, I'd be a really unhappy 40-year-old one day. So I called it off. It was really hard. I did it the worst way too. I wrote her a letter.
Oh no, Julian!
I wrote her a letter. I was such a tool.
Better than a text, though.
Yeah. And we talked. We talked after that.
How long was the letter?
It was
like
a long
3 sentences.
It was like a 3-page letter. It was really. It was a really hard thing. It wasn't like it was a pretty intense thing. And I could have handled it better in hindsight, but I was like, I didn't know I didn't know anything at
So
the
you
time.
wrote a 3-page letter, then you went to Buffalo.
Yeah, I went to Buffalo, and I
And
just
you
kind of
had a phone conversation with her after.
we talked a bunch. We actually almost got back together. Whew, glad that didn't happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That always happens though.
After you moved to Buffalo or before you
after
moved?
after I moved to Buffalo.
It's cold up there.
It is cold up there.
Yeah. Meaning that's what makes you want to go back to Nashville and be with the warmth of your woman.
I understand.
Don't look at me like that.
I was like, why are you talking about the weather all of
I'm
a
with
sudden?
you, Rhett. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
So I'm up there and I'm like, I'm just going to dig my head in the ground and try to focus on, making little funny videos and releasing them. And I was up there and a friend of my friend Mark, the guy that I moved up there with, his friend Chris Torsha came over one day and introduced us. And Chris was like a very quiet, like reserved person. He's like he's a scientist. He's like one of these people that's actually a scientist for a living. And so he was like very quiet at first, but he started kind of warming up. And I was like, this guy's actually, after a couple of days of hanging out with him, I was like, this guy's actually kind of funny. And so I asked him, I was like, if I could think of something to shoot with you, would you want to be in it? And he was like, kind of taken back. I could tell because he had never heard that question before. He was like, yeah, sure, I guess. And so I had this idea to shoot a series where I get kidnapped and I'm going to get killed if I don't meet a certain amount of subscribers. So this guy, Chris Torsha, ended up being like the guy that is now called Gabrielle on the Kidnap series. And so we shot that and I met my deadline and I shot a bunch of other videos while I was up there, moved back to Nashville.
You met your deadline of subscribers.
Yeah.
What was your goal?
I think it was 1,000 subscribers in 5 weeks.
1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. So I got there and then I moved back to Nashville. After a while, I moved back to Nashville and just kept making videos. I did that and I still hadn't gotten partnered yet. This was still like, I moved back home and I was like living with my parents and they were like, what are you doing? What is this YouTube nonsense? And they were very supportive of my end goal, which I wanted to make movies one day, but I think they just weren't as familiar with the framework as I was.
And how are you making a living at this point?
I had saved up a bunch of money from freelancing because I was making pretty good money at the time. So I just saved up a chunk of money so I could live off of for a while. So I took several months off and just was focusing on this.
Okay.
So I, after moving back to Nashville from Buffalo, it was, this was like when I had met my kidnapped goal of 1,000 subscribers. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this enough to where I could get partnered and start getting a little bit of money from this. And so within 4 months of that, I shot this video called, was it 4 months? It was it was 4 or 5 months later, I shot this video called 25 Things I Hate About Facebook. And this was back when YouTube actually featured stuff on the homepage and they featured it.
Right.
And it was overnight, my channel just blew up. We were shooting a video. I was shooting a video with 10 of my friends at my parents' house when a friend of mine texted me and was like, you're on the front page of YouTube right now. And I had this moment where I had the camera on, we were about to shoot this take and I froze for a second and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, really? And everything stopped for a second. And I checked my email and this is when I had all my notifications going to my email and I had 3,000 emails or something like that. And I was like, I better turn these off. So I turned those off and, overnight, I got partnered, almost immediately. It was 2 days later I got partnered. And I was able to start generating a little bit of money off of my channel. And my parents were kind of at that point, they're like, okay, I could see how this could work. But I still wasn't full-time, doing that until a year later or something like that. So.
You're still doing the freelance
Yeah,
thing
I was still freelancing a little bit and doing YouTube on the side.
So connect the dots from the Facebook video to getting partnered to then getting on the television show.
Smash Cuts?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was still living in Nashville, but I was traveling out to LA about once a month, twice a month. And I was doing this a lot for just generals and stuff like that and auditions. I had an agent out here, but I wasn't making enough money to justify moving out here yet. So, my agent, and I had met Sarah. I met Sarah on one of these trips, and we immediately started dating. And I was like, "This girl's awesome." We were
Where'd
hanging
you
out.
meet her?
She actually, I hate telling the story. She was working for a blog at the time, and she was writing an entertainment column, and she wrote about 25 Things I Hate About Facebook. And her company wanted to meet me. Since I was out here for all these generals, so I came out.
Her company, meaning
the blog she worked for.
She wanted to meet you.
Right. No, it's actually her company, Social Vibe, was they had all these, like, they worked with a bunch of different YouTubers at the time, and like doing like, I guess, endorsements, or I don't know what the scenario was, but yeah, they said, if you're going to be out in LA, we'd like to meet you. And Sarah had sent me a message on Facebook, I think it was, because at the time I don't think they had fan pages yet, so I just had a personal profile with like 5,000 friends or something like that. And she had added me in case I made anything else new. So she sent me a message, and I saw her picture, and I was like,
So basically, from your perspective, a fan sends you a Facebook message, and you're trolling your own Facebook messages for good-looking girls.
Yeah, basically.
There's no shame in that.
No shame.
Oh, yeah. It works.
So you gotta take it while it's hot.
I'm going to reply to this one.
Yeah, so we started dating, and I was back and forth between Nashville and LA for several months. And
so she interviews you for the blog, and then it turns into a date?
Well, no, we actually, I had seen her picture from that Facebook message.
I remember that.
So she and I started, I was like, I should get your number so that I know how to, I slyly got her number. And we started.
Know how to what? Call you?
I said, so I know how to whatever. No. So I don't know how I got her number, but I was like, we should just, I think it was clear why I wanted her number, but I made it seem like it was business. Mm-hmm. And so we started texting, and then, like, I found out she had a really good sense of humor, and so then we started, like, talking on the phone. This is before we had ever met. So when I came out to LA for those generals, the night I got there, I took her out to dinner. So, like, it was like before I even had the meeting with her company, I was like taking her out and getting to know her.
That's
and stuff
good.
Like that. So then we were long distance for a while when I was back and forth between these two places, Nashville and LA, and my agents called me and they were like, hey, we have this, there's this show that we want you to audition for when you're out here next month. And so maybe just bring like a bigger suitcase in case you end up getting it, because it would start immediately. So I didn't tell Sarah because I didn't want her to like get her hopes up that I was going to be moving out there. But I just packed like a big suitcase and came out. This is actually a crazy story. I had like $40 in my bank account when I came out for this trip. I couldn't even afford a rental car. Sarah didn't know any of this. She still doesn't know any of this. No, I'm kidding. So I was staying at a friend's house who was out of the country. I was using his car, and that's how I was like getting by out here with no money. And I go to this audition, and I'm like, I don't think that audition went very well. I've never been good at auditions. So I walk out, and my car got towed. My friend's car got towed. He's out of the country. I have no way of getting in touch with him. So I'm like, how do I get home? How do I get this car? How do I pay for the car if I can even like prove that I know the guy who it belongs to? And so I call my dad, and I'm like, Dad, can I borrow some money if I can prove that I am responsible for this car while my friend's out of the country? And so my dad wires me some money.
Yeah, because they're going to demand cash.
Right.
And like probably $250 at least.
Yeah. So my dad wires me some money. I can't remember how, but somehow through a freak of nature, I guess it was my social virus coming out again. I proved that I'm connected to this guy, and I get the car back. It was like that same day I get the call. My agents call me and they're like, by the way, you got the gig on the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is amazing, because I don't know like how I was going to eat next week, like.
Right. Wow.
So
what was the audition?
It was basically an improv audition. It was like, I'm trying to remember it. It was like, they just threw a bunch of curveballs at us. They were like, okay, so we did the improv game where one person like says a sentence and the other person says a sentence, and you have to tell a story, and like it's one sentence at a time, and they just like switch it at random. And then I did another, actually it's funny because I still tell Donovan Jordan, the guy that's in a bunch of my videos, I still tell him that he's responsible for all this mess, because he was already cast on the show, and he was in one of the auditions I had to do, one of the improv games I had to play. And I was auditioning against this one other guy that was up for the same role as I was. And I guess I did such a mediocre job in the audition that the executives of the show like didn't know which guy they wanted to hire. So me and the guy walk out of the room, and they
Oh, you were both there head to head.
No, we were taking turns with Donovan.
Oh, wow.
And Donovan broke my sunglasses during the improv game.
It was intense.
So he felt bad for me and told them that they should hire me. and that's how I got the gig.
Wow.
So I owe a lot to Donovan Jordan, I guess.
And so, okay, and I can kind of tell this a little bit from our perspective because you ended up
Well, you haven't said what the show
getting
is.
on the show Smash Cuts,
Yeah.
which was a clip show that talked about viral videos.
Right.
And with 4 hosts, which incidentally, some of you might know that in 2007, we were on a show called Online Nation on the same network, right? On CW.
Yeah, CW.
That was about viral videos that had 4 hosts.
It's a very successful network.
Well,
they're trying a lot of things.
You know, the interesting thing is I know that, you know, we have our own set of embarrassments related to our job with Online Nation, and I know that you have your own set of embarrassments with Smash Cuts. But from our perspective, when I saw the show, we were like, okay, well, this is a lot better than what we were involved with. That was the first thing I thought. And then I was like, you know what? And my 4-year-old son really likes this show. When the first time we ever met you, he was like, are we meeting Julian from Smash Cuts? I mean, he absolutely loved the show.
That's funny.
So anyway,
so same show. We had the same position. Only difference is 2 years later, and yours went a little longer, and somehow was syndicated. It was like a season, but then they kept replaying that one season.
It got renewed, but it's actually the long short of it is that the show lost a lot of money in development because there was originally like 7 or 8 hosts, and like CBS, there was a huge miscommunication when they sold the show. CBS thought they were buying a sketch comedy show, and then they I don't know how this happened, but like we shot like 4 episodes and like commercials for the show and everything, and then CBS finally decided, hey, maybe we should watch this, and because CBS I guess
so
paid
you
for
shot
it.
4 episodes of a sketch show.
Yeah, and they were including some of my sketches from my YouTube channel in the mix, and I was like really excited about this. So then CBS sees it, and then they're like, oh, well, we thought we were buying a clip show, and so then they send all these executives to set, and there's like 2 weeks where they're eliminating hosts, and nobody knows who's getting fired next for like 2 weeks.
Like Survivor.
Yeah, and so like I was thinking like, man, if I lose this gig, like I don't know, I'll have to move back home. I'm gonna have to tell Sarah like I have to move away again because I can't support myself off what I'm making from YouTube. And I had this apartment that I had signed a year lease on. It was kind of expensive.
Oh, wow.
And like I didn't know what I was going to do. So I fortunately didn't get cut, but the show lost so much money in development that the only way they could make their money back was if the show got renewed and they didn't reshoot anything, and they just kind of repackaged it and mixed the footage up so it looked like they were unique episodes, but it was actually made up of non-unique footage. And
smart.
And they didn't have to pay their hosts royalties because it was a quote-unquote reality show. So we all had these lousy reality show contracts, and I didn't see a dime for any of that syndication.
Oh, wow.
Terrible.
Now,
First world problems.
But it was at least much more of a perceived success. Your show was than ours. We shot 8 episodes, and they aired 4.
Oh, really?
They aired 4. Wow. And I remember we didn't live here in LA for that, of course. They would fly us out for like a week, and we would shoot 3 episodes or so, because I knew we flew out 3 different times, and the third time we flew out, we were shooting.
Well, no, the third time we flew out, that we thought we were coming out to shoot the next 4 episodes, but the show got canceled before we came, but we had already bought the tickets, and so that was when we came out for meetings. So it was 3 trips, 2 trips with 4 episodes each.
I remember the last one that we filmed, they had already started to air, and the show wasn't good, and we were shooting the last stand-ups, tossing to the videos before we'd fly back, and we turned to our 2 co-hosts, Stevie Ryan and Joy Leslie. Stevie Ryan has a show on VH1 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sketch show. We turned to them, and as we said the last time, we said, all right, Stevie and Joy, it was great knowing you.
That's how they told you?
This is it. No, that's how we
knew. Like we knew that the show wasn't
They hadn't announced that it was that it was going to be canned. We just knew it because we had seen the show on television.
Oh.
We turned to Stevie and Joy, and we were like, all right, great knowing you. That was great. And they were like, what?
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, haven't you watched the show? This ain't going to continue.
See, I felt the same way about Smash Cuts. Every episode I watched, I eventually stopped watching it because I was like, this is going to get canned and I don't want to know when it's coming. I only watched like 4 episodes, I think.
Because you're basically just doing a Bob Saget. I mean, you guys had some fun with it, and you had some other things that weren't just America's Funniest Home Videos trying to be modernized, but just really just pretending to try to make internet videos relevant on television, and it just was it just was a miss.
Yeah. Yeah, after Smash Cuts wrapped, I'd say like 2 or 3 months afterwards, I was full-time YouTube, and I signed at Maker at the time, somewhere around there. And then, and that was like, when I signed at Maker, that was around the time where I went full-time, because I remember them saying, they were talking about my strategy, and they were like, if you keep this up, next month you won't be doing freelance anymore. And I was like, great. So I remember that day where I got the news that I was like, where I realized I was going to be able to do this full time. And it was like, I was sitting in my car and I was just like so thankful. It's, I'll never forget that day.
Well, I mean, as people who were friends of yours and definitely fans, our perspective, and I think that we probably speak on behalf of a lot of people who are fans of yours, we were like, this guy's doing things that are, incredibly funny, also incredibly slick. Like everyone talks about, okay, well, if Julian Smith does it, it's going to look incredible. It's going to look like a movie. Lots of people, the production level on YouTube has risen across the board in a lot of ways, but you were doing that and still do it better, but we're doing it a lot better than a lot of other people at the time. And so there was this, like, when Julian does something, he does it right. And like, what do you think it is about you, your personality, your approach to things? Like, what is your perspective? Hearing that from us, that's how we would perceive your content, is like, oh yeah, we might make something that's really funny and it might look pretty good, but then Julian does something that's like, man, this is on another level. What's your perception of yourself and your content in that way?
I just got really tired. I mean, I've been making videos for so long, and I started making videos when I was like 12, and I became very familiar very fast with, like, every year I would look back on the videos I did the year before, and I'd be like ashamed of how it looked and how it sounded, and like, because I was learning so much, and I just got to a place when I started freelancing where I was really tired of not liking things that I made like 3 years later, and I really enjoy liking things years after I make them, and so I think that's probably why I think it's so valuable to put all that time into it, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense monetarily. I could make a whole lot more money if I just didn't care about that part of it, and I just like hired a 16-year-old to come shoot it or something like that. I could do a lot. I can make a lot more content, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I would much rather look back, like, I'm really happy with what's on my channel right now, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
I want to get to your music and where you're at with that, and how your audience perceives where you're at right now, having done the music. But before we get there, I also want to touch base on the amount of videos on your channel started to dwindle a little bit more, and you were producing =3 for Ray William Johnson. And so how did that start happening in terms of strategy for you? When I heard that, I was like, okay, I didn't think. So, are you a producer now, production company? What what was happening?
You produced our the Goth Boy video too.
Yeah,
that was right around the time you were like, well, I'm gonna, I want to make my own stuff, but I want to produce other people's stuff. And we were like, well, hey, we got this project, and so we collaborated on that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, kind of what led to that sort of change in strategy?
I didn't like intentionally stop making videos. I mean, I was definitely going to slow down and try some new things, that I'd been wanting to try for a while. I've known for years that I've always wanted to make an EP, and eventually I still want to make a full-length album one day. These are, there's a lot of things I want to try. I love it all, but, I never intended to not make anything in 2013.
Right.
It's just kind of how it happened, So, I definitely knew that I was.
But you did make a choice. I'm going to work on music. I'm going to do the production thing, but then I'm going to make it a priority to work on music. And it's not good. From our experience, when you told us I'm focusing on music, like, okay, so like funny songs, like more of the same, but just more songs. And you're like,
I remember you looked very disoriented when I told you.
I was just role playing what your audience would think.
Right.
Kind of. No, but you did make a strategic decision to focus on music and instead of your sketches.
Well, I was writing a movie. I was writing a movie at the beginning of 2013 that I thought was going to be, I've written a million, not a million, I've written like 3 movie screenplays that I thought was going to be my first movie. And then I decided later, I don't want to do that one. I can do better than that. I want to push myself a little harder. So I was writing a movie at the time that I knew I wanted to make. And I knew I was really getting stressed out with figuring out what next to do comedy-wise on YouTube, because I had done so many different kinds of things, and I didn't want to just like repeat where I had been, and I could tell from some of the stuff I was releasing, my audience was like, like you said, they're like, where's the next Malk, and it's like, I don't want to be the guy that just releases stuff because like, there's people there waiting on it. That's not how I look at my channel. Like I said, I look at it as like a way to exercise a muscle. And so if I'm not pushing harder than I have in the past, then I don't want to do anything, So that's how I was looking at it. And so, there was a few months early on in the year where I was like, maybe I'm done with YouTube. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this, because it seems like there are so many other people in my life that are doing it, that are like, you guys have been doing it for so long, and I have no idea like where you muster it up. Like you're so good at it, and like you keep coming up with stuff that seems fresh, and I think a part of me was like, I want to focus on this movie because I know I can make a movie one day, and maybe I need to find something that maybe I need to just experiment a little bit so I can buy myself some time to work on this movie. And so I was like, well, I've always wanted to make an EP, and I had been also writing a lot at the time. Like I've always written music in my spare time, but at the time I was writing a lot, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just make an EP. Or at the time I was thinking it might be a full-length album, but it ended up being an EP. So there was a few months where I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my YouTube channel, but I never, intended to like shut it down or anything like that, or like.
But when you were focusing on music, you said, okay, I'm gonna make an album of X number of songs. It's gonna be a sincere album. It's not like it's gonna be a comedy album.
Not a comedy album.
But you knew that you had to know that people would expect, okay, if he's not gonna do YouTube, at least he's gonna give me something that's comparable to what he's been giving me. It's, how much of those thoughts entered your mind? Because you certainly paint a picture as an artist you have an internal standard, and it's a very loud voice that you follow, that, for us, maybe we follow our fans to a fault, but was there a concern there of what they were going to think?
I mean, it crossed my mind. I knew people were going to, like, when I announced that there was going to be an album, I knew people were going to immediately think it was going to be comedy, but that wasn't a concern of mine. I don't know. I just do things I want to do.
Well, but is it, okay, is it frustrating though? Is it frustrating to get, because I mean, you let us see the music video before it came out.
Yeah.
You gave us a little preview, and we were like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
We expected no less of how great of a song it is and how great of a music video it is. And then I look at some of the comments, and of course there are perceptive fans, and I think there was a very positive response overall, but you still have those people who are like, so when is that next thing that is like what you used to do? It's
there were some confused people. They didn't really know. I think it kind of came out of left field for some people, and I guess my fans are a factor absolutely in what I do, and I definitely think that I owe a lot to them because they've enabled me to keep making things, so but at the same time, the way I look at my channel is so strange because I've always looked at it as I don't look at it as like an enterprise or it's not really a business to me even. It's just a place where I get to put things that I make, I get to post them there, and they get to, and that's how it started. The channel name is Julian Smith 87, so it wasn't clearly started with any intent of.
And it's an expression of who you are as an artist, I think, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
not as
it's not a place to fulfill expectations.
A brand.
Right. Yeah. There's never really been. There was like 1 year where there was consistency in my channel where like there was a day you could come and there would be something new. I did that for a year, and then I realized like that's not like I'm not going to be able to keep this up. And so ever since then, I've you could come to expect a certain thing, but like there's never really been consistency on my channel in every capacity.
Right.
It's never been like a TV station or anything like that where you can tune in and like, even when it was all comedy, like you never really knew if it was going to be like which character it was going to be or which song it was going to be a song. I didn't even know. I was flying by the seat of my pants, So it's like, I don't know. I guess it's, I guess I just don't really, I don't have any plans with it.
But what would you say to your fans who are listening? This is what they've been waiting for you to tell them when you're coming back and how you're coming back. That's their perspective. What would you say to them?
I will say having taken the year to reflect and take some time off, I have I have a very clear understanding now of where I want to go and what I want to do, and I actually am writing my movie now that will definitely be my first movie. I'm going to try to shoot it end of next year. And in the meantime, I am going to pick back up on my YouTube channel and keep things going. It will probably look a little different than it has in the past. It'll still be comedy. It'll probably be a lot of different things. It'll probably still be as inconsistent as it always has been. But I'm not going anywhere. I still really care about that channel. I still really love that channel. I love having that outlet to be able to express myself, and I'm so thankful to have that place and the people that have come to enable me to be able to make those things. So I'm not going to abandon any of that. I will be continuing to make things. I don't know exactly how soon, but I will say soon. I will say definitely before the end of the year, there will be regular content on the channel.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think people will be happy to hear that, and I think that obviously,
and most likely sooner. If I didn't want to do YouTube anymore, I wouldn't do YouTube anymore. I didn't hardly do it at all this year, and I've made money other ways. It was so that is if I come back, it will not be because I need to make ends meet, because I am not capable of creating on the basis of making ends meet. I wish I could, but I cannot operate under that pressure. It has to be something I want to do. So I think in a lot of ways, that's why I started my production company, which I'll continue to keep alive and grow. I will funnel all of my productions through the production company, and I still have a lot of plans for it, but I think that's why I initially started it, because I was like, well, maybe there's other ways I can, maybe I don't have to do as much YouTube content and I can make a living other ways, and I don't have to have the pressure of making something that I don't really necessarily want to make. I would if it came down to it, I would much rather freelance for the rest of my life if I then make something week to week that I couldn't really, I don't know how to articulate it, but I just can't. I can't create out of obligation. I'm incapable of it.
I think I totally understand, and speaking as a fan, I'm excited that there's going to be some more content on your channel, and I'm also
too
very excited that you're going through with this movie idea, because we've always talked about it. It's like, okay, when is he going to do it? When is he going to make this feature length film that I think is going in our minds will be the feature length film that they point to as, okay, that's when the YouTuber transitioned and did it right. I mean, that's not to put the pressure on you or anything.
Jeez, that's a lot of pressure.
That's that's our expectation at this point. So it better be awesome.
I would say that to sum up everything we've just said, I am excited. I'm genuinely excited about re-engaging my audience and making more things. But that said, my channel is and always has been and always will be, subject to me making my first feature film, because that's why I started it. I started it to see if I could make something people would actually want to watch. And now that I know that I have an audience, I'm just waiting till I have that idea finished where I can go do it. So everything I've done and everything I continue to do will be through the goggles of, working towards making that movie. So it's all kind of up in the air. That's why I don't have any permanent plans. But I know I can say I will definitely be making more content very, very soon.
Well, I can guarantee you that everyone will be happy.
I will be very
because
happy.
It sounds like you were listening to that voice, and that's really what we want. Or like Rhett said, as fans, the best thing we could want is for you to follow the internal urge to create as Julian Smith. So
follow your biological clock.
I'm going to.
Compass.
I'm going to go to sleep.
And be a good father. So we can help with that.
And
right.
sign the table because, that's what time it is. It's time for you to take this. Well, you know what? You can open it.
Do I sign while we're recording?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And that was our conversation with the Julian Smith.
I like talking to that guy. I'm glad to consider him a friend. I consider him a creative genius. Hopefully, I was fanning out a little bit there. I was trying to just be honest about the fact that I am a big fan and I really admire his work. And I also, like all these other people, I want to see more videos.
Now, you said I was fanning out. You mean you were fangirling? Is that what you meant to say?
I use the term fanning out.
Fanning out means you're spreading out.
Well, because physically I was I was standing up in like a jumping jack position. The people can't see at home.
No, you weren't.
But
you were fangirling. But he's actually a friend of ours, so it's not really appropriate to fangirl with someone who's a friend.
I'm a little conflicted because he is a friend. He was actually a friend before I was really that familiar with his work. But I'm saying that we often use him as a, we're like, well, what would this look like if Julian did it? And so I love to just sit there and pick his brain and talk to him about what he's thinking.
And I think it's interesting that we've determined that if our standard is Julian, a lot of times in terms of how good something looks or how funny something is, his standard is within his own mind. I guess I mentioned multiple times the voice in Julian's head and how he listens to the voice. I don't know if I mischaracterized him as crazy, like he listens to a voice in his own head, but I'm just saying that he's a.
I think you said inner voice, which inner voice is much better than the voice in your head. Did you actually say the voices in your head?
I don't, probably.
That's the litmus test. If you say the voices in your head and you use plural, that's crazy person. But if you just say the voice, your inner voice, that's like a television show.
Inner artist.
Yeah. The inner voice is a new spinoff of the voice that's coming out.
Well, whatever I said, I meant it with the highest esteem. And it was a good conversation. We gained understanding. Those who were wanting to know the answer to the question, where has he been? Hopefully you're satisfied.
Well, that's what we try to do here on Ear Biscuits. I mean, we're having a good time. We're having a conversation. We're asking the questions that we want the answers for. But we hope that we are, in one sense, sort of speaking on your behalf, asking questions on your behalf. We know that you want to know, what Julian's up to, when his next video is going to come out, what he's thinking about. And hopefully this was satisfactory on some level. You enjoyed the biscuit. It had exactly the right consistency. And the flavor was right.
I like
right
my
on.
Biscuits undercooked a little bit, by the way.
You like a light biscuit.
A warm, light biscuit for your ears. We do it every week, and we thank you for sharing the fact that we do this with your friends. Bring them on in. We can handle it.
We made this for you. Can I steal that? Can I say that?